Hey everyone, Brian Zane here, and I'm back with the AEW Dynamite review. It's been many a month since I sat here in this spot to talk about weekly wrestling shows, but I'm glad to be back in the thick of it here. Did you miss me? Because I missed this, for sure. You know, it feels like half of the This Week in Regret podcasts were dedicated to talking about Dynamite every week, to the point where I went, why don't I just bring the review back as a separate video? Speaking of the podcast, stay tuned for some updates on that if you're watching this before Thursday morning. Anyway, like I said, I've missed this. It feels good to be back in the chair to review Dynamite again. So, as the theme song says, let's get it. The show begins with one of the last qualifying matches for the men's Owen Hart tournament. You've got Jeff Hardy taking on Bobby Fish, and Adam Cole is on commentary for this opening contest. It's Jeff's first singles match in AEW. They bring up on commentary, and also you see Sting and Darby Allin waiting in the rafters, watching it periodically. Darby will take on the winner of this matchup in the first round. I love the cutoff Bobby Fish uses here. On the outside, a dragon screw into the barricade, so he hits leg first into it. It's pretty cool. Jeff begins to make his comeback with a jawbreaker. Fish fights back, hits his avalanche, Falcon Arrow. Jeff recovers because there's a pinfall. He's at the leg lock. Jeff with the rope break. He hits the Whisper in the Wind and the Swanton fairly soon after that rope break to win the match and go on to be in the tournament. The Young Bucks show up after the bell, and we get a bit of a face-off with they and the Hardy brothers, which is pretty cool. But then there's no physicality or anything. The Young Bucks tend to Bobby Fish at ringside. Cuts to Adam Cole looking perturbed, which he just seems to do anytime the Young Bucks and Red Dragon are on screen together. And that's how we wrap that up. I thought the match was okay, but okay was about it. It was kind of felt standard fare for Jeff Hardy. He's easy to pop the crowd. Doesn't do much to do that. And so a smart way to open the show with a fan favorite, but the match itself, it didn't really blow me away. We get an abridged version of this amazing hype package they released on social media this week with it's about the Blackpool Combat Club with William Regal narrating it and talking about how you'll remember us by the scars that we leave on you. And the video, which is about 4 minutes long, a lot of it's just B-roll of like Moxley and Danielson and Regal just beating the hell out of poor Wheeler Yuta and just really breaking him into the club here and everything. But yeah, go watch the full thing if you haven't yet. The abridged version is cool, but the full version I think is better. Anyway, we go on to our next match, trios action, as the Blackpool Combat Club take on the Butcher, the Blade, and the Angelico. I don't know what the name of the hold was Angelico used to cut Danielson off early on, but I loved it. He had him bent backwards and resting on his hip or something like that. Wheeler Yuta taking a lot of the heat in this matchup here until he finally makes this hot tag to Moxley after hitting Butcher with a German suplex. Danielson comes in and hits the stomps while the other team members fight off the other people from the other team. You've got the Dragon Sleeper, the Triangle Sleeper locked in with the big flex of the guns by Danielson for the BCC to win this one pretty handily. That was fairly academic. Another good showing for this relatively new trio. I think it's a nice place for all of them right now. It keeps Danielson and Moxley kind of in the consciousness. It keeps people talking about them, keeps them relevant. Wheeler Yuta is just this great wrestler to kind of be brought up and made to be into a star in this way. I think he's kind of the Daniel Garcia of the Blackpool Combat Club, and that these veterans are kind of taking this young upstart with a lot of upside under their wing and kind of molding them in their image. I think Yuta, with the ROH Pure title and being involved in this and being involved in the Best of the Super Juniors happening soon, it's like he's doing really good for himself. And like I said, I'm just really enjoying what the Blackpool Combat Club is offering, especially with Regal at the helm. Tony Schiavone is backstage with Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs. He's talking about the tag team title challenge they laid down earlier. Since Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, and Christian Cage show up to interrupt them. Wow, what a concept. The babyface interrupting the heels in a backstage promo. So Jungle Boy ups the ante by saying, we'll put these belts on the line if you put the FTW title on the line against me. And so that match is going to happen next week on Dynamite, and I'm very excited to see that one. Speaking of Team Taz, after the commercial break, Schiavone is there again, this time with Swerve and Keith Lee, who say they have unfinished business with Starks and Hobbs. And Lee says that his opponents will swerve in their glory, whatever that means now. You just I think you've mashed up the phrases too much now, doesn't mean anything. Up next, Wardlow taking on MJF's mystery opponent. I love the Goldberg-style chants that Wardlow's getting as he makes his way to the arena with no music. He's handcuffed, surrounded by security detail and everything, but the fans just love everything he does. I love his presence here. MJF comes out, introduces his mercenary for the week. It's William Morrissey, the former Big big cast. Of course, now is a star on Impact. He is the newest mercenary, and you can't teach that. Speaking of which, I love the dueling "We want Enzo, no we don't" chants that happened partway through this match. It was pretty brilliant. And then even better than that was Morrissey's response, where he did the little Enzo dance and just kind of like flipped him off and everything. Morrissey looks good here, and it's a big hoss battle. I love fights like these. Morrissey hits a big boot onto Wardlow to get the action on the outside. A boss man slam looked picture perfect by the big guy. Wardlow that's a top rope moonsault, lands on his feet as well, which was just, man, put the belt on this man right now. Give him the rocket, strap him to it. He hits the power bomb on Morrissey, hits it picture perfect to win the match, emphatic fashion. And I think the fans, they did appreciate seeing Morrissey in the ring. They popped for him a couple of times here, but they loved Wardlow a whole lot more, especially after that power bomb. So really cool to see him win there. After the bell, he gets ready to be cuffed again. He lures in some of the security extras, beats them all up. More extras come down, and they bump and feed for the guy. And then Wardlow hits an awesome bomb on one of the smaller guys and tosses him onto everyone else. It was just a spectacular one-man wrecking crew, and the fans were going just nuts for the whole thing. And then afterward, Wardlow on the mic and telling MJF he will not stop this path of carnage until he gets what he wants. He gets out of MJF's contract and a match with him. MJF, strangely enough, accepts that challenge, but he says, of course, there are conditions, and of course, next week we'll find out what those conditions are in a contract signing in his home turf of Long Island, the most magical place on earth. I thought that this was another great showing for Wardlow. What they're doing with him, it is working, because the fans are buying into all of this. They've been down for this ever since well before the turn. They wanted to see it happen. Then, of course, when that turn happened in the match against CM Punk, fans are here for it. And what we've seen in the storyline so far, I think, has been a great natural progression. But does every MJF feud have to also include, here are these weeks worth of trials that you have to go through? I feel like everyone's done that. Cody did it. Jericho did it. I feel like Moxley's done it when he feuded with MJF. That didn't happen though. And now we're getting it again with Wardlow. It just feels like you're doing it. It's like they're busting it out like twice every year, it feels like now. But it feels like it's going to get, you're going to run out of mileage with that unless you kind of do what you did with the labors of Jericho, where the first couple of weeks you have these big surprises. What's the equivalent of Nick Gage going to be in whatever trials Wardlow has to go through? Tony Schiavone's backstage with Ruby Soho, Tony Storm, Dr. Britt, and Jamie Hayter talking about their match to open Rampage this Friday. It's going to be the first women's match to open the show in its brief history, that tag team match there. There's a no contact rule, though, before the match actually happens, which they explain in this promo. Britt calls herself Dr. Britt Baker History Maker. Soho's tired of the trash talk. Doesn't cotton much to this no contact rule they have here. Both teams talk trash as the segment ends. And speaking of talking mess, the AEW World Champion Hangman Page makes his way to the ring. He's got some things to say about CM Punk and the title challenge there for Double or Nothing. And Page here, pretty short and sweet promo here, but I love what he gets across. He says it'd be easy to talk about how much he respects Punk and wants to shake his hand and have an all-time classic, but that's not going to happen. There's not going to be a handshake. There's not going to be a masturbatory Bret Hart tribute match. He says he's simply going to destroy Punk at Double or Nothing, but honestly, I think he kind of did right there with that line. He tells a guy in the crowd wearing a Punk shirt that he's going to beat Punk so badly in Vegas, that fan is going to run to the merch stand to get a refund if he's not already burned the shirt. He says it will be the fight of Punk's life, and that's how Page wraps up the promo there. Like I said, it was short and sweet. It was to the point. It was leaning very heelish, which I was kind of surprised by here. I don't know if that's just something that they're doing for this promo or for this program, or if it's going to lead to something bigger down the line where Page may turn heel full-fledged. We'll have to see where that goes there. But I thought the promo was passionate. It was convincing. It was kind of took me for a loop there. I didn't really expect to see that kind of fire, those kind of zingers from someone like Page. He's been kind of like the stoic baby. Not stoic, but he's been a bit more respectful than that, it feels sometimes, or a bit more noble with his words. So that was a bit change of a pace, and I think that was definitely an interesting wrinkle I did not expect, and it made the promo better. They're hyping up the TV debut of Konosuke Takeshita from Japan, and then we see a backstage promo from Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh in the background, and they're going, where's their red carpet for all the good they've done in wrestling? And Lethal challenging Takeshita to a match this Friday on Rampage and says he's going to get his red carpet treatment whether anyone wants it or not. Then later in the show, we hear a promo from Samoa Joe where he basically says, Jay Lethal on Rampage, I'm coming for you. So I guess we can expect that kind of thing to intersect effect in this match with Lethal and Takeshita. Grudge match time as Santana takes on Chris Jericho, who's now calling himself the Wizard after his fireball attack on Eddie Kingston last week. Santana diving onto him mid-entrance. I think it's the first time Judas has actually been interrupted mid-song in the history of AEW. There's a brawl before the bell and everything, and Jericho tries to commandeer the camera like he always does, but it backfires on him, so a bit of a reversal there as well. Jericho with a cutoff by way of triangle drop kick as we go to commercial break. We come out of it, and Santana intercepts a beautiful flying nothing to try and take over again. Some Eddie Guerrero tribute spots by Santana here. Jericho puts him in the walls. There's a rope break. Santana with a big fiery comeback and a lot of close calls in this one. He looks very strong here, though it is fairly academic. There is a bit of outside interference. Matt Menard gets on the apron to distract. That allows Jericho to hit the low blow and the Judas effect to win, and then the rest of the Jericho Appreciation Society beat down Santana and Ortiz to stand tall at the end. I mean, the match itself, like I said, it was a fairly easy to predict finish that Jericho would win this one, though Santana did look very strong. I think, he really had Jericho on the ropes a couple of times here. I am very curious to see where the Appreciation Society goes, especially after this feud with Eddie Kingston and friends. I think the fireball, though, did escalate things rather quickly, because where do you go as a heel team once you've done the fireball? I feel like there's not much other places you could already go, and we already saw so much of the Inner Circle, so this is something that's been weighing on my mind, or I've been thinking about since the group was formed, is like, I mean, there's going to be those comparisons, so you really hope that they can, whatever they do, without getting completely outrageous and over the top, like just fireballs every week or something. I really hope that they can kind of live up to that expectation, or at least not be negatively compared to the Inner Circle. The Gun Club are backstage, and they have gifts for the Acclaim. They're pairs of scissors, and then they do the scissors thing with their hands to close out the segment. And look, that's something that I honestly have missed a lot of the context on. I don't quite understand why that whole scene happened. I'm just going to say, okay, I assume there was a reason behind it, and I'm just going to roll with it. Moving on to the Varsity Blondes in the ring, calling out the House of Black. Brian Pillman Jr. on the mic, saying everything's gone south since they crossed paths with the House of Black several months ago. Poor Julia Hart done got her mind poisoned by the Black Mist, and everything they've worked for has been falling apart. They reference John Harbaugh, who's the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. He was in the audience, and he was Brian Pillman Sr.'s good friend in the college football days. And Brian Jr. talks about some advice that Harbaugh gave him many years ago. Says he admits the House of Black almost tore the team apart, but now they're very motivated, and they definitely want to fight the House of Black. They make their way to the ring, and there's a moment here where the members of House of Black are surrounding Garrison and Pillman, and the Varsity Blondes are in a spotlight. Everyone else is around them, including Julia Hart, who's literally standing in the darkness with the House of Black surrounding the Varsity Blondes. And the standoff is going for a long time, and finally Brian's like, I don't know what's going on. He just loses focus, and then the heels beat him down. So the Varsity Blondes are very quickly taken care of. Nice knowing you guys. So then Malachi corners Julia Hart in the ring, and they lead her to the middle of the ring, and Brody King hands her a chair to hit Griff Garrison with, and she almost does it, but she won't let it. She won't let it happen. The good side of her is still trying to fight its way out, and then Malachi gets pissed and rips the eye patch off of Julia and berates her until the Death Triangle make the save, House of Black powder, and then that's essentially Rey Fenix's entrance for the next match. So that's where the segment ends. Boy, the Varsity Blondes don't look good in this encounter, and it's kind of continuing their pattern over the last several months, but I think that I am fascinated with where they're going with Julia Hart here. We've seen the darkness kind of spread across her face. She's fighting the dark side and everything. Very fascinated to see where this ends up. It does feel like inevitable she's going to join, but then like what's the redemption arc going to be, and like where's that all going to go? It is very interesting. I think that the sooner they can pull the trigger on this, the better, because I do believe the House of Black has kind of lost some momentum in the last month or so. But I think something with this, some kind of quick turnaround with Julia Hart, some twist with that might make things, it's making things more interesting for sure. Well, Mark Sterling Esquire's backstage with Jade Cargill and the Baddie section, and Sterling putting over the 30-0 celebration in Pittsburgh, mentioning Red Velvet is qualified for the Owen Hart Hart women's tournament, and she says she's going to win the whole thing. Jade Cargill with the exclamation point. It's on period. And then we have our final men's qualifier for the Owen Hart tournament as Rey Fenix takes on Dante Martin. This one was as flippy as advertised. Just picture in your head what a match these two would be like, and that was pretty much it. It was a very flippy affair. It made me pay attention to the picture-in-picture because there were some things that you didn't want to miss. Just a lot of big high-flying spots with both these guys. Phoenix with a crazy springboard reverse Spanish fly, I think. Excalibur didn't even know what to call it. Like, that's how you know. When you've broken Excalibur, that's when you know you're doing some really special, insane stuff here. Felix gets Dante into a powerbomb and turns that into a cutter. This match gets a fight forever chant. They're fighting on the top rope. They try the reverse Spanish fly again, but they both do a backflip, land on their feet. Dante with the poison Rana, more counters. Phoenix ends the match with some sort of modified reverse DDT to win the match. But what a fun bout it was. Just great cruiserweight action. The crowd was into it the whole time. And it was, very fun stuff. Dante Martin looking very strong in defeat here. And now the men's bracket is complete. Let's pull that up. You can see the matches here. I'm looking forward to a lot of these here. I wonder who the Joker could be to face Samoa Joe in the first round. We then get a short promo from Darby Allin and Sting after the brackets are shown. He's going to be facing Jeff Hardy. It's a very kind of short and to the point babyface promo where it's like, Jeff, the story writes itself. We're going to pull out all the stops. It's going to be great. We're going to have a good old babyface time here. And so I'm looking at the bracket here, and honestly, my pick for the finals would be Darby Allin versus Rey Fenix. That's just my choice, though. What do you think's going to happen? Let me know in the comments section. The rarely seen women's world champion Thunder Rosa appears on stage to cut a promo. She talks about when she first came to AEW, she didn't know what to expect, but now she knows her purpose there is to help elevate the women's division and make it one of the best. She says she is one of the best and she wants to wrestle the best. And with that, she introduces the #1 contender and the woman who inspired her to become a wrestler all the way back when she was a fan in California. It's Serena Deeb, who just recently beat Hikaru Shida in their rivalry. Deeb makes her way out and admits that, Thunder Rosa, you are one of the best. The two of them can make this the best women's division in the world, but to really seal the deal, the best women's wrestler has to be the champion. Thunder Rosa takes exception to that, and then Serena says, look, everyone knows that I am the best wrestler around. Like, I'm on another level, and now I need to have that championship to prove it. So they make a challenge for the title match at Double or Nothing. The challenge is accepted, and it's all like Donkey Kong. That should be a very awesome matchup. I love what these two have done in AEW the last several months, and this match is going to be, I think this could be a potential show stealer in Vegas. We hear from John Silver as he gets ready to walk into the Slaughterhouse next week against CM Punk in his hometown of Long Island. And then we go to our main event, the ROH Women's Championship Unification matchup, as the official champion Deonna Purrazzo takes on the interim champ Mercedes Martinez, who beat Willow Nightingale at Supercard of Honor to earn the interim title. But at the time when she won that, I was like, why don't they just make it a #1 contendership? Because it's essentially the same exact thing. The match starts off with some hard-hitting back and forth here. Deonna working over Mercedes' arm during the break. Martinez with a really cool spear onto Deonna on the apron. They brawl an awful long time on the outside before they make their way back in the ring, and then things really pick up. More great back and forth. Martinez hits the curb stomp and locks in the Dragon Sleeper after some fighting and a little biting by Purrazzo. But Deonna taps out. Martinez wins the match and is now the unified, undisputed ROH Women's World Champion to close out the show. I thought it was a strong main event. They had to work especially hard in the beginning because I felt that it was a very quiet crowd. They were kind of tired, it felt like, watching this, but they really got their energy back up by the end. They really fought hard for this one, and I think they earned everyone's adulation at the end. It was a great matchup here, and it was cool to see Martinez finally getting her due. Somebody who's been, they've made it a point to tell that story often about how long she's been in professional wrestling, and it's true to see how long it's been for her to finally get like really big, high-profile looks. Like we saw it in the Mae Young Classic years ago. She had a run in NXT. She had that terrible blinking you miss it thing with Retribution on the main roster that went nowhere. She got hurt in NXT. She comes back to AEW. So to see her not only win the interim championship, but to go on and beat Purrazzo in the main event here to unify the belts, I think is big-time validation, big-time vote of confidence, and again, really cool to see Martinez finally getting her due here. My grade for this week's episode of Dynamite is a B-. Pretty darn solid show here this week. a lot of storyline progression, which I enjoy. The one real big surprise in this show was Morrissey's debut, which I think was handled pretty well, and even in defeat was still a great fun hoss fight with he and Wardlow. Beyond that, I'm not sure there was a lot of like earth-shattering moments or matches or things that we're gonna really remember like a year from now or so. I think, wow, what an epic moment. Like maybe like the seeds being planted for a Hangman Page heel turn with that promo that we saw. But I mean, I think there was the sum of everything's parts put together really made this an enjoyable show for me. But what did you think of Dynamite this week, folks? Let me know in the comments section below. For those of you who've been asking, I know a lot of you have been, don't worry, because Raw and SmackDown reviews will make their way back to the channel. In fact, SmackDown is actually going to be a SmackDown/Rampage review, so be on the lookout for that in the next couple of weeks right here on the channel with a new host. I think you're going to like that. Until then, folks, I'm Brian Zane. I'm glad to be back here reviewing Dynamite, and I'll see you next time.